Hello everyone and welcome back to another Planet Zoo special video. So today we are building a polar bear habitat and we are focusing on building a very realistic one. I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I think it's quite realistic. Yes, there will be some flaws about it, and yes, there will be some things that you will point out is not too realistic, but I'm going to talk about this, what I was focusing on and why it is the way it is. Anyhows, yeah, I think it's the perfect timing now as it's getting boiling hot again in Europe. It's time for cooling down, and therefore we're just doing a polar bear habitat. No, but in all honesty, I had the feeling that for quite a long time I didn't want to do a polar bear habitat simply because I didn't find the suitable spot for it, and all my zoos I was playing in, except the Verankiato one, they weren't really like in a region where it was suitable to get a polar bear in. Like, for example, Koali Zoo is not really the region where you realistically have polar bears. Same goes for my current franchise mode, which is somewhere in a kind of tropical region. And also Yosemite Valley is not yet ready for polar bear habitat. Even though that would fit a little bit better, I wanted to do something that really suits the vibe, and we will be doing this in the future, but therefore I will need some more Arctic animals that go in, and there will be a few little things I'm going to do about this in Yosemite. But today it's all about making something completely loose from all the projects and something really one-off that will also go to the workshop. So you guys will definitely get this after this episode. But I may say that I might be doing some changes off screen, and then we'll re-upload the right version, so you won't really notice that, but in case you have this one, it will automatically be changed once you place it down again. So yeah, it will be in the next couple days, so it's not gonna take ages. There are a few little things I could improve, but honestly this thing was already way too long and way too big. You can see this from the length of the episode, it's insane. And if the time-lapse is too quick for you, which potentially could be, because this time it's way more sped up than usually, simply because of so much footage. I did already cut out a lot, but it's definitely important that I left this footage that we have in. So first of all, that we can talk about it, but second of all, that you do see the progress and what kind of thinking has gone into it, and why things are the way they are. Now, before we really talk about the basic idea about this entire habitat, let me just quickly point out that this was really a struggle, and this was really pointing out again why I think people have been struggling to build the polar bear in general. Like, this habitat over here will have the minimum requirements at the end, but it will have the exact minimum requirements. There is not going to be any space left, even not for a baby. So I left it in a way that if you guys get a baby ice bear or polar bear, I should say, I'm still German, still falling back into this wrong naming, but you can always enlarge the habitat to one side a little bit, and it shouldn't be too big of a deal. I left it in. But here's the thing. Now let's talk about this habitat. You can see the basic setup of it already, and I will be constantly enlarging the habitat. And I wanted to make a compact habitat, so as compact as it is. And also, one of the main reasons why I wanted to do it as well is because I've been recently to the zoo in Wuppertal in Germany, and even though the zoo has improved over the last couple of years dramatically, you've seen potentially the video of it. If not, check it out on my channel. There's a cinematic tour of that zoo, and you will see all the habitats and stuff. They have some really great habitats that are They look phenomenal, really nice, and focused on conservation and having a lot of space for the animals. However, the polar bear is still a remaining thing of the old times, where there was a different owner of the zoo, and the focus was not too much on conservation. And from this time on, the polar bear habitat, even though it still is fulfilling the AZA requirements, which are ridiculously low to be honest, but even though they fulfill these, this habitat is just like incredibly small, and they are going nuts in there. Now, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to build a habitat that realistically would work in the real world, also to help research polar bears and help them survive, because as you know, they are endangered simply also because of climate change, and all these kind of things. And I don't know if some of you guys heard it, but recently in the latest video I also talked about this. Polar bears start pairing themselves with like brown bears, and there is a new species kind of developing now, because the polar bears have to move down to the south to get some nutrition and stuff, you know, because they in their natural environment everything is falling apart because of, you know, it's getting hotter and warmer and stuff like that. And you know, in general the problem is that the normal way they live there, and you know, the normal prey is kind of also dying out. And so, well, and actually the other thing is there is just now the possibility for them to go further down to the south, because the ice is gone and they can swim there and go there and walk there now, which is interesting for research to say that there is a new species kind of developing. But in terms of the overall nature, that's not a good sign at all. And so it's very important to have these kind of zoos also focusing on researching the polar bears and making sure that, you know, help them to survive and then reintroduce them to the wild. So this is the idea about this station, and I'm calling it station because the main idea, the design idea about this habitat, which is potentially kind of unusual, it's definitely focused to be something that is reminiscent of a real polar research station. As you know, for the polar DLC, the Arctic DLC, in the winter times, I made this research station, the Arai research station. Again, in case you haven't seen that, check it out on the channel. There's a whole series of 6 episodes about this, where I built like a huge research station in the Arctic, focusing on really the environment in there and not really being a zoo. And yeah, while I was doing this, I also you know, I just kind of fell in love with the very weird architecture of these stations, and I wanted to build a kind of zoo-ish building here that still has some elements of this station, and you know, just plays around a little bit with the style and making it kind of almost like a research station rather than a real zoo habitat. And you will see in the end, I think I think I succeeded in this, even though it might not be my most pretty building I ever did, but that was never the target. I never wanted to do a pretty building. I wanted to do a functional building that is also, to an extent, self-sustainable. You will see that in the end, where I will do a lot of work with some solar panels, and so that, you know, there is a way of keeping these solar panels alive, and just making sure that you get the energy back that you will need, because obviously cooling that area down and making sure these animals are happy requires a whole bunch of energy. And wherever you put this, I mean, hopefully not in the tropical regions, but wherever you put this, you will definitely need a lot of energy to make sure the cooling system works, and you know, all that kind of stuff is very important, and I did want to focus on that. However, that said, one thing I did sacrifice though is a little bit of the interior design. It's gonna be very minimalistic, very modern, and not too much focus on having too many details, which is for once because I wanted to keep the piece count not too I wanted to make sure it's not ridiculously crazy, and I wanted to keep it fairly human, so to say. I think it's fine. I think it works. I think it's to an extent looking good enough to be a Rudy detail building, but on the other hand side, it's definitely not like a crazy one. You will see that in the end, and I am, as I said, quite happy. Now, when it comes to the layout of this build, I wanted to make sure that the station is very much in the center of the action. So this center build, first of all, I made sure that the setup of the pathway is super simple. I mean, you cannot really miss how you would put this down. I made sure that every building is connected on the grid, so that you can just simply build the grid and follow the open gaps, and it's pretty simple to put the pathing in. I really see people struggling with this quite often, and this is why I focused a lot on making this. And you can also see from this piece, you've seen that earlier on, I also made sure that there's also some education going on about the water system in the back of this habitat. You can see this is put into the back wall. I'm going to talk about this a bit more in the real-time part, but there's also the idea of a cooling system in this backside wall, and having some pipework in there, and paired with the solar panels on top of the station in the center, there is quite a very good flow of energy in this overall system. Now, the biggest idea about this habitat was to make sure that this is compact design and that the people going to the center building have multiple viewing opportunities without really annoying and disturbing the animals. So the animals should have the least amount of interference with the guest. That said, I still wanted to make sure that the guest can see the animals during most of their activities, because I gave them a whole bunch of different stuff to do, which is focusing on what they do in real life. So they have a lot of area to traverse, like a lot of different area to traverse. It's not like that they just have a huge plain where they can just walk, but they have some inclines, they have some little hills, they have some steeper hills, they have some caves, they have some open caves, they have some tunnels, and all that kind of stuff, so that they really can be on the move as they are in reality as well. And I wanted to, as I said, make sure that the people can still see them during all these activities in various spots throughout the entire habitat. Now, as I said, this should be more like an education building rather than a shitty old kind of zoo experience where you are seeing the polar bear way too close and way too crazy because they are pretty much annoyed by it. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure also that there are a lot of things seem to be quite realistic. Now, this cave down here will be looking in the end very, as I said, very bare, very reduced to the minimum, but this is like how a cave in reality would look. It's not like awfully designed, it's just like a cave that the polar bear would live in. And same goes also for the usage of overall foliage and stuff I use throughout the zoo. Like I did not really use too much of it. I wanted to make sure that everything is, as I said, quite realistic. I made a lot of security systems where we have some fences, because that's one of the things people mostly kind of complain about, and so this time I really tried to make sure that this is going on and that there is a focus on making sure the people could not realistically jump into the habitat, and there is some security system in place, which is not, there are some areas where you can still argue that people could just easily jump over, but as in every zoo, if you want to, you can get into some habitats, and you will never be, you will never have the 100% security that some stupid people do not do this. It's for example, in the zoo in Wuppertal, if you want, you could just easily jump over the fence and then just jump into the polar bear habitat, even though you would definitely land in some of those water bazaar things, like in the water tank, and well, you would have even less chance of surviving, I guess. But well, you should just not do this, then it's quite easy to survive. But yeah, you can see from the footage there's a whole bunch of struggle going on here, making it bigger, smaller, but you can finally see the overall the just overall habitat starting to develop. But now I will be shutting up a little bit and leave you guys with the music, because again, this is quite a fairly long habitat build and a fairly long time-lapse in general, and I want to just keep some of the infos I want to talk about for the real-time part, which will happen in around 12 and a half minutes from here, like 10-12 minutes, I don't know, something like that. You will see this in the footage. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it so far. Again, a little plug here in the middle for those people who did follow this wonderful video till this point in time and you haven't been subscribed. What the hell are you doing? If you like the content, I would be more than happy if you guys would hit that subscribe button, because really that helps a lot, makes the channel grow, makes me smile. That's very important as well, being a happy camel. That's kind of cool. But yeah, thank you everyone for the support, the ongoing support. I really do appreciate that. And yeah, I'm just shutting up for the moment. Enjoy the rest of the footage. Gonna increase the volume of the music a little bit right now, and then we see each other again in the real-time part. Enjoy. Alright, there we go guys, we are in the real-time part. Now, as I've promised, we will look a little bit more at what I've done here from this real-time part. You can see this is the view you get once you approach the habitat or the station. You can see there is, let me just turn the camera a little bit, you can see this a bit better. There you go. I made this polar sign over here. I think it's fairly cool. I tried to make it a little bit more minimalistic, but this metal sheen kind of works really nice as a sky. I'm quite happy with how this turned out, and I kind of made this down here as if this would be like a mirror effect in the water. Like realistically, I would have taken some more time to put even more pieces down here to make that also like water-ish colored, so like a bit more bluish. But the problem is here that you need to use very tiny pieces, and then, you know, kind of it doesn't add really too much for what I wanted to show. And I think this looks kind of cool, and it's, you know, it's the sign over here that blocks also a little bit of the cave down here, because I don't want to make this cave appear too crazy already, because you should look really at this station. Now let's turn a little bit to the right first. You can see there is the polar bear just down there going into the cave. We will have a look into the cave later, but you can see this is already one of the ideas I had here to make sure that this is kind of dragging your attention so that you really want to go there. And you can see the fence here. I imagine that there would be some warning signs in here. I haven't found too small of a piece, and you know, I will put these in. As I said, this is the stuff I will still do to make kind of a life danger sign that will be put down here, because again, you easily could jump over here, but then you just need to jump down again, and I imagine that there would be a lot of security cameras around here. But yeah, you can also go into this right hand side, and you can see there's a little lake ending in here in a artificial snow. So this is something I should talk about in general. Most of the snow you see over here is obviously artificial. We do have some coolers down here, but like all these blocks and stuff I imagine to be like artificial snow, or even like plastic or something like that. Maybe not plastic, maybe some other hard foam or whatever, just to make sure that this looks a little bit more like this. But in fact, since you cannot keep the snow always over here, there is the reason why there is some cooler stuff inside of the caves. This is where you would have this. Yeah, if we move to the left hand side, you can see there are some education boards over here. You can have a look too. Then there is this area, and it's just kind of a little bit more calm area down here. The polar bears could take another little bath in this area, but they basically they seldomly do. And then I can move up here. This is kind of a little area where they can climb up the hill and then just cross this area to the backside. We'll look a little bit further into this once we just fly up high and I'll show you the overall area. But this is another little back area. I imagine this could be for a bit more privacy for the polar bears. I really think that this should be something that you guys fill in, because this is meant to be a side entrance. So if you put this into your overall zoo, you can make this still a viewing area, but that's not the main idea. Anyways, let's go back to the starting point. And if we are here at the starting point, you just go back and cross the bridge, and then you have multiple options. On the left hand side, we start with this first option. There is a little school where you can sit down and get some information about this. You could also have someone here standing like a guide, give you some stuff, and I imagine this is like a cupboard where you have some education stuff in that you can give away. But you can see they can sit down and have a look at the education boards. I really do hope Frontier at some point gives us the option to have custom billboards. That would be a lot cooler than I could just make like a big one. That would be very cool indeed. You have a little information down here to grab some stuff, and to the left hand side, this is just like an open space. You can see there is one polar bear just moving up the stair, but this is just a little area where you can have a look. I forgot to put down a little fence here so that you don't go too close up to the window, but you cannot see that much either. I made it so that there is just a little glimpse, so you get the idea that there is something. And yeah, to the left hand side, this is the entrance to the back side. I'm just quickly showing to you, but there is not too much attention paid to it. You know, this is kind of in here, and then you just go down to the back. Some stuff is sticking in. This is just for you if you use that in your real zoo, that you have all the facilities available. Now, then we can go up, and you can, oh, look at that! How wonderful! The polar bear just does the swimming for us. That is so awesome. You can see it swimming, and then we have here, this is two things at once. You can see them swimming, and at the same time you get some education about the different layers of ice. So this is really the idea about this having education and viewing in one. There would need to be another education board down here, but again, since I cannot change all of these images, I didn't want to, you know, just throw them in too many of those. I will potentially put some down before I release that for you guys, but yeah, you will see. This will be quite easy and quite simple. Now, if we move up a little bit more here, you can just go the stairs, and then there is a bit more to see. So to the back, you can potentially see the polar bear if they come closer to you. As you can see, they can see one, you know, just walking there. But again, I wanted to make sure that the polar bears are not annoyed by the people. You have a little glimpse here, you have the education, but you don't annoy the animals too much. Also, it's kind of noise level reduction for them. Here you get some more information. This is where they can cross, and you could see them a bit more up close. I imagine this to be like some one-sided glass. It's not. I try to use as less of the habitat barriers as possible, because as you know, they are not saved within the blueprint, only the outer habitat borders, and that's also why you will need to put in, I'm just going to tell this later, some of the fences yourself, or the pieces yourself. It's you know, it's really unfortunate, but there's no other way of doing it than just, you know, putting it in yourself, unfortunately. I would love that this is not, but you guys are all stuck here. Interesting. I don't know what exactly this is the issue, but they seem to be stuck. But anyways, we just leave them there for the moment. And then we just go to the next spot. And this is down here. You can just go into a cave. I have no idea if there's anyone in the cave, but we just go down here. You can see you are greeted by some eyes peeking through. And then this is the cave view. And I think I like this a lot, because it's so bare, yet looking so cool. It's just like a polar bear eyes, polar eyes, I don't know, little cave, you know, where everyone can just have a glimpse how it would be in reality. You can see all the coolers down here that provide a chilly atmosphere for them, and then you have also like an entrance for the staff members. As I imagine, the door is here, so it's kind of nicely hidden from the guest, but then they could just go here and enter the habitat. It's unfortunately not possible to have multiple gates, as you know, but you know, I just imagine realistically that would be how it is. And then just to show you how it is from the inside, then it's all very bare bone, you know, because that's kind of the area how it is in a real zoo sometimes, you know. They can just walk here and poop, obviously. And this is the area where, oh, I don't know why I threw... There's actually the gate. I do have to delete this piece. I will do this later. But then if you go up here, you are in this last area where the polar bears are mostly alone and get some drink here without being annoyed. They can just have a little sip of the water. And then if you look around, this is, again, very bare bone, very simple, very realistic, because that's how the nature is where the polar bears live. They don't really have that much trees and stuff, you know. I just put some down for the looks of it, but realistically you would not need that too much because they don't really need it. And they just have another cave over here, which is a bit more hidden away from the people. And yeah, this is something I want to talk about, but let me go to the other side. So in the back you have a little access area. There you go. I imagine that this is where you can go into the cave and where they would be delivered, and that's kind of all below the water. But the main idea about this system, about this huge wall, for once obviously is to separate the habitat from the rest of the zoo. But the other thing is, you can see there is some pipe work in here. And I imagine that this could be some kind of natural pipe system to make the water flow work. You have some nature on top here, where we have some little sprinkler system, which is in here. You can see all these little black holes are the sprinkler system to make sure that the water goes in here, and then it's kind of purified throughout this layer of stuff. So that is kind of a natural water purifying system. How you see that quite often in modern pool designs, like swimming pools that you have in your garden, they quite often have this kind of stuff. We have some greenery where the water runs through. Usually you would actually use some gravel and not soil, but I imagine there is some soil kind of stuff, some mulch that works the same way. It's kind of very clean and stuff, and the water is just kind of dripping through, and while doing this it's kind of purified and comes back in. So my idea is that the water stuff over here is pumped, oops, where are we? Is pumped kind of into here, and then into this pipe work. Then it dribbles down to the plants, dribbles through the kind of mulch, and just goes down back into a pipe work that then goes down. And on the way down it's kind of cooled, because these walls are like there are some special walls that kind of reduce the heat from sunlight going to it, and just kind of produce some cooling effect from it. And that's the idea, to cool it back down and then go back into effectively into this pool, into this pool, and also into this pool. So that is the main idea about this setup, and I think we covered it all. This is my attempt of a realistic polar bear habitat. You know, I would love to call it compact. It's, to be honest, with the requirements of the game, it is a fairly compact design, not gonna lie, and I just just gonna give you the evidence that they have enough space. You just click this dude over here. Oh god, I just made my mouse a little bit slower to not move too quickly around. Hey, stop. Oh, there's another one just sleeping over here. Okay, let's have a look. You see, welfare is nearly perfect. Nutrition is not that great because it's hungry. But there you go. Terrain is fulfilled. You've got 169 square meters left. There's quite a little bit of the navigable swimming area missing. You could just easily equal that out by just changing the lake a little bit. But at one point I was like, oh, yo, you know what? Just let's not do this. You can see plant coverage is kind of nice. Actually, they have quite a high rate where you could put some stuff in, but I left it as it is. And yeah, everything else is just fine about it. But as I said, mostly, and this is the biggest issue here, this tank over here is not translated into your blueprint. So if you get this one, there will be no water in, and you have to put down the glass wall yourself. So this is going to be from here to here, and the same goes for some of the other walls that we do have in here, but I tried to make the most of it. As I can show you, this is the outer line, so all of these barriers you will get, but everything that is within here, also like the viewing spots down here, so that one, and all the other ones you won't get them, so you have to do it yourself, unfortunately, but I think it's fairly easy. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the roof, because you can see there are a whole bunch of solar panels, and they provide all the energy needed. You can see I put actually a staff room up here that is simply hidden, so that you can actually put, I'm just going to show you, you could easily go here and put a mechanic, because there's the pathway you have to put yourself down, but they can actually access that and just repair all of these. So in your zoo, if you use that in a real zoo, you can actually do this yourself, and yeah, that's kind of cool. You could potentially, you know, kind of create a work zone for this dude so you don't get these annoying messages, but that's about it, guys. I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy, as always, you know, consider subscribing if you haven't already. You know, if you are some of these persons that keep watching but you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing this, because again, that helps the channel, and I really do love to communicate with all of you guys. So yeah, just make sure also to let me know what you think about this polar bear habitat. If you have any amendments, let me know. Maybe I can still do some changes and stuff. That would be awesome. And let me also know what is your favorite polar bear habitat in real life, if you have been to one already. That would be awesome. And yeah, just have a wonderful Saturday. I see you in the next one. Have a good time, and goodbye, everyone.